This is PT, a 32-year-old motorcycle driver from Bangkok. In his free time, he performs Khon, a dance and drama genre unique to his country of Thailand. He has been learning this traditional art form since he was a child. PT is still single, so aside from his living expenses, most of his income is spent on costumes, props and whatever else he needs to make his Khon shows as authentic as possible.
เบสครับพี่รบกวนหน่อยพอดีช่วงนี้พี่เมาเสื้ออีกทีขอบคุณครับไปเจอกัน
PT performs at the Ban Silapin Artists' House, a lovingly restored wooden house which sits at the heart of a small community of waterfront shops. Today, a friend who runs a cafe on the ground floor has asked PT to perform for his guests. The Artists' House is a refreshing getaway from the busier places in Bangkok, where the concrete jungle has taken hold. Located in a more traditional community along a canal, it's popular with locals and tourists because of its intimate environment and the attractive local culture that is always on display. Khon is a unique regional cultural heritage, which in the past was only performed by a small troupe of folk artists. However, the tradition was so colourful and inspiring to the people, it eventually grew into a national art form. Now there is no shortage of enthusiastic and amateur performers willing to give it a try. Although he never trained professionally, PT has worked with private instructors for over a decade. Now it is PT's turn to teach. They are enthusiastic apprentices, especially since the instruction is free and they get to perform 2 or 3 times per week. Khon is not necessarily known for being heavy on plot, but what it lacks in the simplicity of its stories, it makes up for in the complexity of its technical movements. Khon performers generally begin studying the art at the age of 6 or 7 and can only perform on stage after 10 years of professional training. So far, PT hasn't had the chance to participate in a complete or officially recognized Khon performance. Like his own teachers, PT demands the most out of his students. PT and his students perform at the Artist's House whenever they can. However, this income alone is nowhere near enough to live on, so he relies on his other job to make ends meet. Khon costumes do not come cheap either. They are embroidered with gold and silver silk threads and usually take a couple of months to make. These are PT's most prized belongings. Because his students are not professionally trained, the costumes and equipment often get damaged during rehearsals. To PT, even the smallest imperfection in a costume is unacceptable. to save money, he often repairs the costumes himself.
ขอบคุณครับ
In order to add a little more levity to his performances and play to a wider array of audiences, PT has decided to include puppets as part of his act. From the look on the faces of the crowd, it seems to be working.
เย็บในที่นี้คือเราจะทำให้มือขาดมาปุ๊บ
There was a time when traditional Khmer shadow puppets almost became lost to history. Fortunately, today this legacy of ancient Cambodian culture is preserved in some pockets around the country. Man Kosal, the owner of one of these small theatres, has long begun to learn and revive this art form. Man and his friends established this theatre more than a decade ago to regularly stage traditional Khmer plays and shadow puppet shows. Man has taken on just about every role you can imagine. He is a manager, director, actor, playwright, art designer, puppet maker and instructor. For this year's Bon Om Tok, the Cambodian Water Festival, the theatre has received a big contract. Every November, water from Tonle Sap Lake begins to flow back into the Mekong River, bringing its mature fish along with it. It's the beginning of the fishing season, which also coincides with the rice harvest. On the day of the water festival, the palace square is bustling with activity amidst all the usual festive trappings. On the Mekong River, a grand dragon boat race is already underway. The Savannah Pum Theatre has received an invitation to perform at a company's annual party. It's a bigger gig than Man is used to, so he had to ask every actor he knew to help make it work. His theatre actually only has 3 full-time staff members, which includes himself and 2 students. The others are part-time and get paid on a per-show basis. To reach a wider audience, Man and his colleagues have adapted the traditional content and format, which has earned them both praise and at times criticism. They know they can't please everyone, but the young people seem to like it. While the show at the party went well, opportunities like this don't come around very often. In fact, the majority of the theatre's funding comes from the shadow puppets they sell to tourists. Traditional Khmer shadow puppets are carved from cowhide, which they get from a slaughterhouse on the outskirts of Phnom Penh.
Look for the female cow, the first. If a male is a very stick, and a female a little bit thin. and also the weight.
Turning a piece of fresh cowhide into a quality shadow puppet is a lengthy process, but man insists on doing everything by himself. Back when shadow puppetry was still popular, there would be a team of skilled craftsmen to take on the job and divide the labor. But man has little to complain about. He enjoys the process and takes pride knowing every puppet is his very own creation. At a glance, the Savannah Pum Theatre doesn't look like much. It's hidden in a noisy neighbourhood adjacent to a clam shop, with its name painted on a dilapidated wall of corrugated iron. But there are treasures within. Man couldn't resist the location because the rent was so cheap, but it is a little out of the way for tourists. Normally, there are 2 scheduled shows per week, but performances often get cancelled because they don't have an audience. With a limited income, it's not easy to make ends meet. Sometimes, when he's lucky, the fresh cowhide comes with ears, which can be cleaned and cooked for dinner. To maintain the theatre's operation, it costs a minimum of $1,500 a month, which is not a small amount for a 3-man team, so money is tight. Luckily, the last performance was enough to cover this month's expenses. Having worked together for over a decade, the small team supports each other like a family, and they're able to just get by. Man's own family is not as supportive, however, so he often spends his nights at the theatre. A few students live here as well, attending school during the day and performing in their spare time. Every weekend, the usually messy workshop magically transforms into a theatre. A show is about to start, but only 3 tickets have been sold so far. For a second time this month, the show may be cancelled. As people begin to file in, man worries they are only here to check out the shadow puppets on display. But in the end, their curiosities get the better of them, and the performance is able to go on as scheduled. This is one of the oldest art forms in Cambodia. In the past, it was only performed at royal ceremonies and the most important occasions, usually taking place outdoors as part of festivals or sacred rituals. Back then, the performers were widely respected for their talents. Today, Man is both the director and lead vocalist, so he's completely in control of the show's rhythm and pacing. For him, as long as the theatre exists, the show must go on. It's 6 a.m. and the fog on the Mekong River has yet to lift. As usual, Som Phet and his group of disciples have taken to the streets to collect alms. In Luang Prabang, this is a 1,000-year-old tradition. Som Phet is the abbot of Wat Chum Kong temple in downtown Luang Prabang. Recently, he has been busy renovating an old temple on the other side of the Mekong River. The renovation work led by him is completely funded by donations. Van Sai, Som Phet's master, used to live in this temple by himself. Away from the city, it's quiet here, just the way he likes it. Som Phet has persuaded his master to renovate the temple and build more houses to accommodate the younger monks. It didn't take much convincing. The larger the grounds, the more space for practicing their Buddhist doctrines and imparting knowledge to others. In addition to overseeing the project, Som Phet often returns to Wat Chum Kong to provide guidance to his disciples. In Laos, it's quite common for men to live and study in the temple for a period of time, whether their stay be long or short. Luang Prabang, the ancient capital of Laos, has an over 1,000-year history. There is an obvious Buddhist influence here, as can be seen by the many pagodas and temples along the Mekong, their ornate pinnacles poking proudly above the tallest trees. Located in the heart of the ancient city amongst a plethora of tourist and commercial activities, Wat Chum Kong Temple still maintains an aura of serenity and elegance. It's home to many young monks, including minors. Kun Mani is one of Som Phet's disciples and is just 12 years old. He's come down from the northern mountains to live here and has been studying Chinese for 9 months.
跟旅游团一起来的。我需要经常来中国，欢迎大家来到我的家乡琅勃拉邦。
Kun Mani receives his education from a nearby school. Although it is mostly focused on Buddhism and traditional Lao culture, It also teaches subjects like science, art and language. Best of all, it's free. After coming to the temple, Kun Mani now has a stable life and the opportunity to receive a formal education. For perhaps the first time in his life, the future looks bright. In order to provide a tourist-friendly environment, the young monks here have taken it upon themselves to learn multiple languages.
January,
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 February,
February,
March.
March,
Okay, again. January.
December,
Oh, January, February,
February,
March, March,
March,
April,
April,
May,
May,
June,
August,
July,
July.
June, July.
When he grows up, Kun Mani will have the choice to remain a monk or go on his own path. Everything is uncertain, but he is okay with that for now. After all, he's still just a kid. Running north-south for over 1,900 kilometers through Laos, the Mekong River is like a nurturing mother to the people here. Sompet is waiting patiently in contemplation as his disciples arrive by boat, ready to help with the renovation project. The abundant sands on the beachside provide a convenient source of building materials. It may be tough work, but these pious men consider a project like this as a symbol of their undying devotion to their faith. The Mekong is host to an eclectic group of nationalities and traditions, whether it is the ancient folk arts like Thailand's Khon, Cambodia's shadow puppets, or the faithful Buddhists of Laos. They all have something to preserve and protect, something so precious and valuable to them that they have devoted themselves completely to it, even if others are not willing to walk the same path. Perhaps there may still be some uncertainty in their lives, but that doesn't stop them from carrying onward, just like the perpetually flowing waters of the Mekong.